I thought it would be fun to take a really cheap guitar and put some work into it to make it at least look like a nice one. The fingerboard on this neck was super cheap and didn't feel great, so I removed it in my last video. Now it's time to get the new one on and get some frets into it. I covered the truss rod channel with some tape to keep the wood glue from seeping in and drilled some locator holes so that the fingerboard doesn't slip around during the glue up. I then proceeded to spread a lot of glue onto the neck to make sure that the new fingerboard doesn't come up at all. This rubber tubing will do most of the clamping work, applying even pressure across the surface of the neck. After a few days of curing, I removed the tubing and had a lot of cleanup to do. There was a good amount of squeeze out during the clamping process, and that won't feel great when I can finally play this guitar. I also took the time to get the edges of the two glued surfaces perfectly flushed up so that the neck feels like one solid piece. I sanded the fingerboard with a finer grit sandpaper to smooth it out after all of the previous rough sanding during the radiusing. All of this work got the fret slots pretty filled up. I usually use a dedicated tool to clean these, but I lent it to a friend, so I used an X-Acto blade to clear some space for the frets. The figuring on this wood is so beautiful, and I didn't want to break that up, so I decided to go for a small, off-centered fret markers on this neck. I measured everything off with tape and drilled out all of the holes and glued in the fret markers. I cut them as flush as I could and just got everything sanded flat. I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about the look, but I'm actually super happy with how they turned out. Now I can finally work towards getting the frets in. I cut everything to length, and since this neck is bound, I undercut each fret since the tangs can't go through the binding. I started each fret by lightly tapping in the fret ends and using my StewMac fret jaws to drive the frets all the way in. I checked for level throughout the process, and these frets were sitting pretty flat. Once all of the frets were in, the fret ends were sharp as knives, so I went ahead and cut them all as flush as I could and then filed them flat. I used an angled file to introduce a bevel. This neck is finally starting to look like something that can go into a guitar, but I still have to level and crown everything, which will be covered in my next video in a few days.